Let's pick up where we left off in the previous clip. You were talking about the Bahishkrit Samaj being conscious of its Bahishkrit nature. So perhaps you could elaborate on what you mean by that. And also you've alluded a couple of times to the relationship between science and movements for social change as well. So perhaps you could talk about both these things and how they relate to each other in your thinking.
See, we can understand the idea of Bahishkrit Samaj being conscious of its Bahishkrit state maybe in reference to two concepts, one deprivation and other exploitation. See, deprivation is easy to understand and is a, with now of course with the entire world of development NGOs and other governments talking about the words are not eradicating deprivation, the words are eradicating poverty. Right? Essentially, the discourse is on deprivation. The other discourse has got subdued, the discourse on exploitation. Deprivation leads to development, thesis of development or development strategies. Exploitation leads to ideas of change, radical politics, to be able to fight exploitation, to be able to overcome exploitation and so on. They create very different outcomes. Although it is true that deprived are the ones who are exploited are the ones who are deprived. I mean, kind of common set extension is the same, but the idea is very different. So to be conscious of one's Bahishkrit nature, the Bahishkrit Samaj understands as if that it is exploited. And it's not by having more and more from somewhere else that it can become equal to somebody else with whom it is not equal. But it requires, that the world needs to change and change in a certain manner for its state to change. And this understanding, this consciousness is not just a consciousness of consciousness. It's not merely a quote unquote social consciousness in the sense that it does not only reveal to it the social relationships, the web of social relationships in which he or she finds herself located or trapped for that matter. But in addition to these social relationships, the possibility of liberation, the possibility of emancipation, and the sources of strength for that emancipatory process. See, this question of sources of strength for an emancipatory process for the Bahishkrit Samaj typically directs the question to sources of strength of the Bahishkrit Samaj. It is not sources of strength of the state or not sources of strength of the nation in some sense of understanding. It is the source, in a larger sense, yes, maybe, but specifically, it is the sources of strength of the Bahishkrit Samaj. In the discourse of sources of strength, although not typically formulated under this title, the left discourse by and large has ideas of solidarity, that is unionization, coming together, and consciousness, and social consciousness. A new idea is needed in the case of Bahishkrit Samaj. A new factor actually in existence, therefore, requires an understanding. See, most of these people, almost all, are those who haven't gone through the rigors of the modern education. Class 5 dropouts, many of them haven't gone to the modern school. class 5 dropouts who can't read after 5 years, and so on. That is the kind of people it is constituted of. So its source of strength, its understanding of the world, the knowledge that it possesses, with which it works, whether it does its own agriculture, is able to live in forest, or caters to children at home, bringing up of children, management, micromanagement of all type, small finance management of all type, which is not taught anywhere, and these people have at least not learnt anywhere. All this constitutes a very large knowledge set that belongs to the Bahishkrit Samaj. This is the knowledge of the Bahishkrit Samaj. We called it Lokavidya at a later point of time, not in 1980, say a decade, a little more than that after that. Slowly, waiting, longish knowledge movement that we have been part of. It's gone through various stages of naming. All Indian names, Kisan Vigyan, Swadeshi Vigyan, all kinds of Nari Vidya, so women's knowledge, peasant science, Swadeshi, indigenous science, and so on. All kinds of naming we went through and finally arrived at a concept of Lokavidya, which seemed more appropriate than any other that we had kind of used before that. Now, Lokavidya is the knowledge of the Bahishkrit Samaj. In Lokavidya is embodied the expression of his genius, his history, his sense of history, his sense of his own tradition, his methods of organization, his ability to experiment, name anything under the knowledge title. And that is it's kind of contained in what broadly can be referred to as Lokavidya, that is the knowledge space, let us say, not knowledge of, but knowledge space of the Bahishkrit Samaj. This idea, which is referred to, it's nothing entirely new. Other people use terms like living traditions, or I hear recently the European students movement is using the word living knowledge. So these are referring broadly to similar reality, may not be the same thing, they're different. So Lokavidya is the knowledge space of the Bahishkrit Samaj. Now, his consciousness of his Bahishkrit state, his consciousness of his sources of strength being mainly in both solidarity and Lokavidya, charts, kind of defines a new trajectory on which the Bahishkrit Samaj can move now. Now it's a very large social movement, and all centers of power, all junctions or locations from where something can be done, where an infrastructure is available, where a facility is available, where support is available, where all this, whatever can come from the state, from the educated, is available. None of these junctions, none of these locations, he is not there on any one of these. Therefore, he is encircled. The Bahishkrit Samaj finds itself trapped. The smallest thing it wants to do, there is an interference, gross interference from the educated, in the name of state policy, in the name of healthcare, in the name of development, all kinds of, in the name of self-governance, all kinds of interference, and therefore this is a very difficult path. And naturally, if it is going to lead to some kind of radicalization of politics of change, and new elements in it which can actually deliver over time, then it's going to be a tough path. So now, you see, this Lokavidya, his source of strength, is in stark contrast. Its understanding, if one tries to look at it, it is in stark contrast to science. Or the world of Lokavidya is in total contrast to the world of science. The the world of science is in institutions. It is with the state almost right from its birth. Lokavidya is a disadvantaged space where no experiment is allowed, where no risk can be taken, because every experiment that goes wrong puts to death a certain number, because there is no space available, there is no risk coverage, there is nothing of the kind. The paradigm of thought in Lokavidya, the way of thinking, its logic, its values, its ontology is different from the scientific ontology, from modern logic, the way, the nature of modern logic, the values of modern science. These two constitute two different worlds of knowledge.
We'll pick up on this idea in our next